This is the brand new M4 11-inch iPad Pro, a newly redesigned iPad that's thinner than ever. But is this finally an iPad Pro that's worth upgrading to from the iPad that you're currently on? Let's talk about it. The M4 iPad Pro comes in two different sizes, 11 inches like the one I have here, and a 13-inch variant. These iPads were redesigned to be thinner, and the front-facing camera is now in the landscape position instead of portrait. Both the 11 and 13-inch sizes have OLED displays, with the 13-inch being $300 more expensive than the 11-inch. As you're taking this new iPad Pro out of its box, you already notice how overall light it is. I mean, this thing weighs less than a pound. Does anyone really think that the iPad needs to get thinner and lighter? Absolutely not. Do I need to get thinner and lighter? The doctor says yes. I don't think anyone was complaining about their iPad's thinness or weight, but because it is thinner and lighter now, the 11-inch is really pleasant to hold in your hand. But it makes it nicer to carry in your bag too if you're taking it somewhere with you. The screen uses a tandem OLED display, so these new displays are better for watching movies and playing games. They look fantastic there. But in an everyday advice, your current iPad Pro or even iPad Air display is probably just fine. The M4 iPad also feels really snappy when I try to do iPad things like web browsing, reading manga, watching YouTube videos, and playing games. But I'll be honest here, my M1 iPad Pro, released all the way back in 2021, still feels just as snappy in almost all of the scenarios that I just mentioned. Almost. Where the M4 excels is when you really push it. In a game like Genshin Impact, I'm able to play this comfortably at high settings and 120 frames per second. It's absolutely crazy, and it feels buttery smooth in that instance. Though for me personally, I just lower it down to 60 frames per second just for longer battery life. But thanks to the chip and the new display, the game looks and plays great. All right. Let's be real here. I don't think anyone saw anything that desperately needed to change with the older version of the iPad Pro. But for this iteration, Apple changed a lot more than they usually do in a typical year. But this led some of their older accessories, like the Magic Keyboard and Apple Pencil 2nd generation, which was made for the previous iPad design they used for 6 years, to not work with this new iPad. So if you were hoping to reuse those accessories from one of your older devices, sorry, you can't. Now the iPad mini is the only iPad that Apple sells that uses the 2nd generation Pencil, and the new iPad Air is currently the only iPad that will use the older Magic Keyboard. The M4 Pro now uses a new updated Magic Keyboard and Apple Pencil Pro. I get it, that's a very confusing product stack. And if you're totally confused about what supports what, you're not the only one. My best suggestion for this is, if you want to know what product works with which iPad, is to check out Apple's website on this, because that's really the best way. And honestly, as someone who even looks at all of this, it's kind of a complete mess. But I think that's a whole other discussion and video topic altogether. So instead, let's focus more on the differences and new features that these new accessories provide these iPads. The Apple Pencil Pro adds a barrel roll, which lets you change the orientation of any tools that you're using by rotating the pencil. You can squeeze the pencil and it will give you haptic feedback, allowing you to change different tools, colors, and the thickness of your tools. And now it even has Find My functionality, which I am glad Apple is adding to most of their lineup. This helps you find your pencil and even guide you towards it. I love this feature because, confession time, I've actually lost an Apple Pencil too while traveling for work once. You would think the magnets that attach it to your iPad are pretty decent, but it's still really easy to knock the Apple Pencil off of your iPad and lose it. You don't know where that thing's going. That thing's light. So Find My is a fantastic addition to make it easier to find it if you do happen to lose it. Now, the Magic Keyboard for the iPad Pro has been improved a lot. There's 2 versions depending on the iPad Pro size, and the keyboard now has a function row. The flap around the hinge is gone, so dust and grime won't be making its way into it, and the interior palm rest is now aluminum, just like a MacBook. Overall, the look and feel is much improved. The white and silver version looks great, but keep in mind that a white case will get dirtier much quicker than the darker version of the Magic Keyboard. My older Magic Keyboard with white exterior has gotten some discoloration over time, just rubbing up against stuff in everyday usage and going through airport security. Also, some minor differences between the Magic Keyboards for the 11-inch and 13-inch is that for the 13-inch, you do get a little bit more spacing between the keys, and the keys on the left and right side are a bit larger than the ones on the 11-inch. Before Apple trimmed all the fat on these iPad Pros, the outgoing 12.9-inch iPad Pro and Magic Keyboard was a little bit heavier than a MacBook Air, but now this new 13-inch iPad Pro with the Magic Keyboard actually weighs about the same as an iPad Air. So this is where, to me, while they didn't have to trim the fat, the combined weight savings using it with a Magic Keyboard are much appreciated. If you're someone who's debating between the 11-inch or 13-inch iPad Pro, there are a few key differences. The 11-inch is cheaper, and so is the Magic Keyboard that accompanies it. I personally prefer the 11-inch iPad Pro for general at-home use and travel, but if you're working on an iPad or want the most giantest entertainment display, get the larger screen. It's so much easier to multitask on it and enjoy your entertainment. As a complete package between the M4 iPad Pro, Magic Keyboard, and Apple Pencil Pro, the entire product stack feels much more refined than the previous version, making the M4 iPad Pro an ever so slightly better computer replacement than the outgoing version. But that's about it. How I used the M4 iPad Pro in reality barely changed compared to my previous iPad. I still use it to browse the internet, answer emails, do some script writing, and watch videos. It's really taken over my MacBook's job of being my primary computer, but at the same time, those are all things that I still don't mind doing on my older iPad. And if that's the case, why should you upgrade to this M4 iPad Pro? Well, it's because your old one died. If you bought an iPad Pro or iPad Air in like 2020 and the battery is still good, you're probably okay. Apple puts such good chips inside of these iPads and their older iPads that they're most likely overkill for most people's needs, that even to today, you don't really need to upgrade. The most noticeable differences that you would see from upgrading from an old iPad is the better OLED screen, the thinner body, and Stage Manager functionality. I've kind of said this in earlier videos, but the iPad Pro isn't limited by the capabilities of the chip inside anymore. It's limited by iPad OS as a whole, lacking powerful apps, and missing ports. iPad OS needs to be more versatile, and while there are some very powerful apps on the iPad, there's not a lot. But then I started thinking, what if that's all people need? I personally believe if I handed a random person on the street an iPad Pro, or let's lower it down, an iPad Air today, their computing needs would be fulfilled. Because that's what I've seen in my own life. All the non-techie people around me don't even touch a computer anymore. It's all been tablets. It's been years since I've seen them use a computer, and that's kind of true for me too. Almost. I mainly use my iPad for most of my computing needs, to the point that my laptop ends up kind of just being that device I only use to video edit or run any other computer specific programs. Because for the most part, everything else I can handle on my iPad. And I truly believe that the iPad physically, its form factor, is Apple's most versatile device. People do some really neat stuff with the iPad that you just can't do on a phone or a computer. They use it for sheet music, drawing, editing photos and videos, and it's arguably the best device for entertainment between a phone, tablet, or computer. But if you look at this from the point of view of a computer power user, and I'm defining this as people who need to use a lot of ports, have versatile operating systems to support what they're doing, and need a ton of power, then even as the iPad lineup has every single year slowly become more computer-like, it's still not there for that subset of people. And that's really where this iPad Pro kind of falls apart and hasn't really unlocked the full potential and unlocked this demographic that can use this as a computer replacement. To at least those people, it's like buying a car that can go 0 to 60 in 3 seconds in a straight line, but is not ideal for everything else. So what is the point I was trying to make in this video? For the average everyday person, this could be their everyday computer. But at the same time, if your current iPad Air or iPad Pro is still in good condition, battery is good, and it isn't slowing down on you, just keep your current iPad. But if your iPad is struggling, then maybe it's time to upgrade and enjoy the combined benefits that the iPad has received over the last 4 years or so. For me personally, I'm still gonna keep my 12.9-inch M1 iPad Pro. As for the power users out there that was hoping that this would finally be the nail in the coffin, you can switch to an iPad. It's not there yet. Anyway, what do you personally think? Do you use your iPad Pro as primarily a computer replacement, or as a fancy entertainment device that just occasionally responds to emails? Maybe you've got a really unique use case for it. What are you using it for? When do you consider replacing your tablet? For me, I feel like the iPad is one of the last tech items I worry about upgrading, because at least with iPads, they've been so good in recent years that I don't feel like upgrading and they suit my needs perfectly fine. There's really no point in upgrading something that still works perfectly fine for your needs. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.